I'm very pleased to welcome Mark Mix back to the show. Mark is the president of the National Right to Work Committee. And just one little bit of context for listeners, and then we'll have Mark talk about this in more detail. I might have surprised some people a week or two ago when I was talking about, the people who I thought were the I don't know, worst sounds a little bit harsh, but I'll just stick with it. The worst nominees by Donald Trump, who, by the way, has lots of excellent nominees for lots of positions, and then a few who were deservedly controversial. And I was saying, well, who are the two worst? And you might have thought that I would have included Pete Hegseth in the worst. I didn't. You might have thought that I would include Tulsi Gabbard in the two worst, but I didn't. To me, the two worst are Robert F. Kennedy and a person you never heard of who may well be the next Secretary of Labor of the United States. Mark Mix joins us to talk about this person. Hi, Mark. Welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you. And, Ross, don't worry about the math thing. When you said 50 times 99, I thought, well, that's close to 500. So anyway, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And I eat a lot of chocolate too. So maybe that's it. But anyway, you're right. There is, look, every president should get his nominees, and we probably, should give him a little bit of slack. But when it comes to this particular nominee, and you're right, she's not well known. She was a one-term congresswoman from Oregon who lost her election. She was one of three Republicans that co-sponsored a bill that would wipe out all the right-to-work laws in the country. So we have an obligation at the National Right to Work Committee to probably raise attention to this nomination, and we do oppose it. We think the senators that are going to be in committee tomorrow ought to give her a pretty good grilling, and when she gets to the floor, those senators ought to vote against this nomination. So,
and her name?
And that's where we are.
Her name?
Lori Chavez-DeRemer is her name.
Right, and this is the thing. Lots of Democrats are going to vote for her because this person, other than having had an R by her name when she was in Congress, is the kind of person that Joe Biden would have picked to be Secretary of Labor. I mean, she loves unions, and they love her.
Yeah, indeed. When Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, comes out and says this is the right person for the job, one wonders where this pick came from. Elizabeth Warren has said she's a great nominee. Or Bernie Sanders has been excited about it, and he's looking forward to having her appear before the committee tomorrow. So I think her cohort of support is probably going to be a pretty big group of Democrats. There will be Republicans that are going to support her. In fact, Josh Hawley from Missouri and Markwayne Mullin from from Oklahoma, not Colorado, are extremely excited about the nomination, and they're going to favor it. They're on the committee that will grill her tomorrow, or maybe not grill her. They may not grill her, but we have a few friends that will. Rand Paul from Kentucky has indicated he will not support her because she does not support right to work, and he's a big supporter of right to work, not only in Kentucky, but also at the national level as well. So there's lots of questions about her. She wants to unionize all government employees by federal fiat across the country. That's a really radical position. I mean, a lot of states are trying to limit the power of government unions in their state. In fact, I think your governor has indicated he's not comfortable with some of the things the Democrats have pushed in Denver, expanding union power over government. So this is a controversial nominee and one that deserves to get a significant amount of questions tomorrow in the hearing. Yeah,
no doubt about that. I will note Markwayne Mullin is. And I'm not saying this as an insult, just as an observation. Markwayne Mullin is one of Donald Trump's biggest allies and cheerleaders in the Senate, and I think they're actually personal friends. And so Markwayne Mullin will go along with probably anything Donald Trump wants for the whole presidency. And Josh Hawley is the worst Republican in the Senate. So let's just back away for a moment from Lori Chavez-DeRemer. And I think most listeners know what we're talking about here, but it's such an important issue to me and an even more important issue to you, right to work. And I don't know that everybody listening to the show knows what right to work means. So can you please describe that?
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes I get too deep in this, but yeah, look, it's real simple. We believe that every worker should have the right to join a union if they choose to do so. They should be able to participate with unions as they see fit, but no one should be compelled as a condition of employment to pay union dues or fees to get or keep a job. That's really the simplicity of the right to work. Now, Colorado has kind of a unique issue that you can be in the union and then you have to vote to have forced unionism, the forced payment of dues applied. They have what's called the Labor Peace Act. But Democrats are very interested in repealing that bill at the state level right now in your legislative session. So real simple stuff. Look, if you want to pay, go ahead. If you don't, you can't be fired. That's literally the extent of the right to work protections that exist in 26 states today, Ross, as we're on the phone.
Right. So I agree with 90% of what you said. I will just, I'll just add one little caveat. I do not believe government workers should have the right to collectively bargain. Period. And neither did FDR, by the way. FDR was against the unionization. It wasn't exactly against unionization of government workers, but he was against the ability of government workers to collectively bargain, and so am I.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely correct. And if I let you believe that I was slipping on that issue, I'm not. That's really important. I mean, no, you're exactly right. The idea that they can join unions is perfectly fine. But when you mandate that this private organization sits across the table from the people they elect and negotiate the terms and conditions of employment for government employees, and what that has done to New York, California, New Jersey, Illinois, I mean, state after state who has basically given union officials this power over the government workers has basically come to almost fiscal extinction because of the problems that it creates. So the idea that a private organization can sit down and negotiate terms and conditions for government employees is wrong. Franklin Roosevelt was right about it. You're right about it. And I want you to know I'm right about that too. Yeah.
So and I'm sure you've used the metaphor many times and I have as well. But you know, when you've got a government union, they're going to negotiate with, so they're government workers, and they're going to negotiate with other government workers over how much they're going to get paid by the American taxpayer. And the metaphor is it's two wolves and a sheep negotiating over what's for dinner. Right?
Yeah.
And the taxpayer is the taxpayer is the sheep. All right, there's one other thing I want to ask you about, Mark. And for those just joining, we're talking with Mark Mix from the National Right to Work Committee about the truly terrible Trump nomination of Lori Chavez-DeRemer to be labor secretary. She's somebody you would have expected Joe Biden to nominate. Talk a little bit about independent contractor arrangements and how big they are in the economy, what that really means, and what the risk is to them potentially with this labor secretary nominee.
Yeah, you're on top of this issue, and thank you for that. You're right. The independent contractors are probably the most aggrieved right now, and Lori Chavez-DeRemer, the part of the bill, that PRO Act that she sponsored, one of 3 Republicans to do so, not only repealed the right to work laws, but it changed the definition of employment of an independent contractor to an employee. And Ross, the only reason to do that, well, obviously the left has lots of reasons to do it, but the main reason is you can't unionize independent contractors, but you can unionize employees. So there's a whole new field of potential union dues by simply changing the definition of these gig workers that really are a fairly substantial part of the economy. I mean, there are a lot of people that love what they do. Maybe they're doing it on the weekend. They're driving Uber, Lyft cars. They're photographers. They're musicians. They're people that are doing things as hobbies or to supplement their second job or as a second job or their incomes. And this would be a radical change. The Department of Labor has already done it. Lori Chavez-DeRemer is going to be in charge of that definition and the enforcement of that. And she is a co-sponsor of the bill that actually supports this change that gives union officials more power over independent contractors. So it's a big deal. And there's literally millions of independent contractors, gig employees, if you will, that are outraged about this. And they're making their voices heard on this nomination as well.
Yeah, I think we will likely we might end up with more Democrat support than Republican support for this nominee. We'll see. There are also plenty of Democrats who are just voting no on every nominee except for Marco Rubio. Mark Mix is president of the National Right to Work Committee. What's the website, Mark?
Yeah, NRTWC.org, National Right to Work Committee.org. You can find out about legislation in your state, in Denver and Colorado, or you can figure out what we're doing back in Washington, D.C., and particularly information about this nomination.
Mark, thanks for your time. As always, we'll have you back.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. You too.
50 times 99? Give me the answer there.
It's around 500.
All right, man. Thanks. Bye.